Hey guys, this is Chase from The Big Fresh. Today I'm going to be doing an album review for you guys. This is the first one on this channel, so let's just dive right into it. Today I'm going to be reviewing Angel Dust by Faith No More, which is by far my favorite Faith No More album and one of my favorite rock albums of all time. So before I get into this album specifically, let me give you a little bit of background on Faith No More. Faith No More started off in the 80s and they were making kind of like generic poppy rock hip-hop influence kind of stuff. It wasn't bad, but it was generic for lack of a better word. Through their early years, they were going through a lot of stylistic changes, and I believe this album is very good because when it came out, they were at the peak of their stylistic changes. Before this, they changed a lot, and after this album, they didn't change much. So it's kind of in that epicenter between where they changed and where they kind of developed their style and found their identity. And a lot of these major changes started on their previous album called The Real Thing. On this album, they made an effort to be more progressive, a little bit heavier, and just more out there. And during this time, they added a new vocalist named Mike Patton. If you don't know about him, he is one of the best vocalists of all time, of all different kinds of styles of music. Definitely check him out because he makes amazing stuff. Even at one point, I believe he was in the Guinness Book of World Records for the widest vocal range, which I don't believe they hold that record anymore because vocal range is a bit hard to define, but it's still a cool accolade for him to have. So after they added Mike Patton and they were trying to be more progressive, that kind of exploded with the production of this album, where they really went full throttle with the heaviness and just overall experimental stuff with this album. Not to say that this is an experimental album, but within this genre, they pushed the boundaries. One of the big things they're going for on this album that I really enjoy is the stark contrast between beautiful melodies and very pretty sounding stuff and elegant sounding stuff and nasty and gritty tones or vocalizations or just overall heaviness. They do a very good job of contrasting these things and bringing them together into songs that have a little bit of everything without sounding forced or like it's just trying to be goofy. And on this album, there's a wide array of different styles of rock and a lot of different dynamics. There are some songs that are very, very heavy. Not super metally, but heavy for like hard rock. But there's also very slow, light, kind of more melodic, pretty sounding songs. And they do a good job of blending them together and not making anything sound out of place. And of course, with Mike Patton as the singer, the vocals really shine through on this album. There is not anything that doesn't amaze me every time I listen to it. His overall clarity, powerfulness, and the melodies that are being sung make these songs. If it wasn't for these, I don't think the songs would be as good. Another thing that stands out to me on this album is the synth and the piano work. On Faith No More's previous albums, there wasn't really any piano at all. But on this album, there's 3 or 4 songs that heavily use piano in some heavier and in some lighter songs. There's a cover of Easy by the Commodores on this album. It's actually a hidden track on this album that's absolutely lovely. And the piano and, again, the vocals shine on this song. It is awesome. One of my favorite things about this album is the order in which the songs are. Every time I listen to it, I get a really good sense of finality when it's over. It feels like the album concludes in a perfect way where I feel like this is wrapped up, but I still want a little bit more. And they choose good points on the album where the songs blend together or the songs are distinctly different. No matter how many times I listen to it, never do I feel like it's boring me or dragging on. My 2 favorite songs on this album are Smaller and Smaller and Everything's Ruined. Now, Smaller and Smaller is one of the heavier songs. I would say it's the second heaviest song on the album, but it uses piano, and the song structure is really cool. It has a really cool breakdown section where it changes time signatures and uses a lot of synth, heavy guitar, and the vocals, again, are amazing. He does a good job of utilizing shouted, screaming vocals and very melodic, prettier vocals. The whole song blends together nicely between the stylistic differences in some of the sections. And my other favorite song, Everything's Ruined, is kind of in the middle, dynamic, middle heaviness. Again, it uses a lot of piano. But my favorite thing about this song are the melodies that the vocals and the guitar are doing. It sounds very pretty, but there are also some parts that sound very dramatic and heavy. Not heavy as stylistically heavy as in there's a lot of weight to it. And this song always makes me feel good when I listen to it. The only thing I would say could be a turnoff to somebody that's just listening to this album, if lyrics are important to you, this album may not be right for you because there's not a large emphasis put on the lyrics themselves, which is something I like. The emphasis is more put on the tonality and the melodies of the vocals. Not to say that if lyrics are super important to you, you'll hate this album. Like, I've showed this album to people who said that they thought that lyrics were super important to them, but then after hearing this, they fell in love with this album. I recommend you still give it a shot. I think you'd really enjoy it just because of how good it is, regardless of the lyrics being important or not. And that's not to say the lyrics are bad by any means, it's just they aren't the focal point of the vocal parts. I've listened to this album more than 30 times all the way through, and several songs over and over again. And I would say it's one of those albums where the more you listen to it, the more new things you pick up on. For me right now, I'm listening to it again to do this review, and I'm noticing a lot of the vocal harmonies being used. Like on the song Midlife Crisis, I never noticed those before, and they really stand out to me now the more I pay attention to them, and they really make the song sound full and very pretty. And again, it goes back to that stark contrast between melodic and pretty and elegant, and dark, gritty, and nasty. So check out this album. If you already know this album, what do you think about it? Type down in the comments there what you think about this album. Do you like it? Do you not? Do you know other stuff about Faith No More? What's your favorite Faith No More album? And if this video compelled you to go listen to this album and you've never heard it before, what do you think of it? Are you going to check out other Faith No More stuff? What do you think? I'm also going to be fielding requests for other album reviews. I can't guarantee that I'll do anything, but if you give me some suggestions, I'll definitely peek at those and see what I want to do. Alright, this is Chase with The Big Fresh. Thank you for watching, and check out the other stuff on our channel.